All right, one big team. So excited to connect with you again. I'm really excited for you all to get the chance to listen to my recent episode with Anthony Trucks. Anthony is one of the most amazing humans I've ever had the pleasure to connect with and speak with. He's a former NFL player, former American Ninja Warrior, currently a really well-known coach and speaker, a podcast host, and an author. We dive into all the great things that we like to discuss on the pod, health and wellness and growth and gratitude. We take a good dive into mentorship, the power that those relationships can provide, and why it's so important to have a really good coach in your life at any stage. So great conversation. I hope you all really enjoy it. He was so gracious to give the first 10 listeners who take advantage of this a freebie to get a free digital workbook valued at $100 when you pre-order his book coming out on August 24th. So really simple. Go to hit the website identityshiftbook.com. Follow the instructions there. Pre-order the book. Take your order number, plug it back into the coupon, and then on August 24th, you'll get downloaded an email sent to you of the workbook, audiobook, and a digital copy of the book. So he's really great to hook us up. I can't wait to see who the 10 people are that take advantage. He said he would let me know, so I'm looking forward to that. I appreciate you all. Maybe a like, a subscribe, a share here or there. I think we're like 25 subscribers away from breaking 200. So pretty exciting times over here for the One Big Team podcast. And I just appreciate you all, and I hope you all get a ton of value out of this. Thank you. All right. So excited to have Anthony Trucks on the episode today. Anthony, really appreciate you taking the time out of, I'm sure, what is a busy schedule to come and chat it up with me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Happy to come. I like hanging with cool people, man. I heard a long time ago, good people find good people. So we found each other.
I believe that, man. That's good stuff. That makes me feel good about myself. So thank you there.
Yeah.
I will always start off the episode with gratitude. So what are some things today that you've experienced that you can express some gratitude for?
I am grateful for hardships, man. 100%. I don't say it because it sounds good. I like them because they make me better as a human. And then it makes everything, like, it juxtaposes things better. So I'm actually more grateful for my marriage. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my health. And it's not just my hardships. I do a good job of trying to be mindful of other people's and being grateful. Like, we have a friend that is, just found out he's diagnosed with, stage 3 cancer. Like, it sucks. And so, like, you see those hardships. And so it makes me grateful for quite literally everything. The fact that I have hope for a future unimpeded at the moment. It's something I have gratitude around. So yeah, I'm grateful for a lot, man. I'm grateful for genuinely just being able to be alive.
Yeah, I think with that, I think we're going to get a lot into, your whole thing is making shift happen and shifting your identity. And I think there's a paradigm shift when you can start to express gratitude for the hardships. And I know that's something that I learned early on through Buddhism, and that everything's a teacher. Everyone's a teacher, especially the things that are difficult. And I think that takes, people on their own time to find that. But I do fully agree with it. I had one of my last 2 episodes ago, I just talked about gratitude and how my practice looks. And one of the things we dove into was the ability to express gratitude for difficult situations and things that you've experienced in the past, right? And the lessons that can come forward there. So I absolutely love that notion. For the listeners who may not know you, can you give the listeners a bit of a background, maybe highlight some hardships and some highlights across your journey into where you are now?
Yeah, we'll go real quick because I think we'll sense, unless you want, you can dig as much as you want, but I don't want to spend all the time in an area that may not be relevant to you or your people.
Sure.
But yeah, I was given away into foster care at 3 years old. So I experienced a really heinous foster care system at 6 years old. After 3 years in the system, I landed into a family that's currently my family. I was still in the system until I was adopted at 14. So 8 years with a very poor, all white family as a black man. So a lot of diversity issues, identity issues. I got adopted at 14. Mom got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I tried this first thing for the first time. Football wasn't very good. A couple years later, found that if I was able to get out of the self-pity hole, I could actually be better at the game, and improved myself so much so in one off season that I got moved to varsity. 2 years later, had a college scholarship to the University of Oregon, went up there. My high school sweetheart came with me. We had a kid our sophomore year, met my dad, my real dad, my sophomore year. Progressed through a couple more years of that whole up and down of doing college with a kid. Eventually got to the NFL. It was a huge blessing. In my third year, I got hurt playing against the Philadelphia Eagles with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They call the NFL a situation where it's not for long. I think more and more people are hearing that. They get what that means. That's just you're in, you're out, man. And then after that, came home, had a massive identity crisis. Who am I without the game of football? Had a couple more kids to my then wife. And we just, man, life fell apart, dude. Got to the point where I lost everything that made me me, was suicidal at one point, just all the feels in a negative way, and found after a couple of years of being in a fog that I need to figure a way out of it. Unfortunately, lost my mom in April of 2014, and it sent me on a path slowly, unfortunately, towards bettering my life. Woke up one day, January 1st, 2016, and just did not like the dude looking back at me in the mirror at all, and decided it was time to find a way out of the hole. And in doing so, happened across this process that I'd kind of always been doing, but never intentionally, and adjusted and what I call shifted my life and my identity at my core of who I saw myself to be. And after 3 years divorce, because I'd come home and ruined everything and got divorced, I was remarried to my ex-wife. Business took off, got in great shape, my present father. And so now at this point in my life, man, I've been on TV shows like American Ninja Warrior, National Geographic's Remote Survival. I just got off a show with Rob Lowe called Mental Samurai, like weird TV things. I get to speak on stages all over the world. I get to share stages with like Tony Robbins and those big name people. I get to write books, work with companies like T-Mobile and PayPal and Amazon. And at the core of it all, what's great is when I do those things, I get to come home and be welcomed by a family that I love that loves me. And that really is the best because they don't care what I do. Like, it's cool. Like, my dad does some stuff and he comes home and hangs out. None of my kids care or understand that, and I think that's a good thing. I don't have to worry about, not being, just a human being for my family. But yeah, that's the Reader's Digest version of it all.
You've done a great job taking, to this point, an incredible life journey and summing that up so quickly. And I've done, a little bit of my research on you, really just listening to, your podcast, the one where you interview people, and then one where it's just you speaking, Shift Starter, and then some YouTube videos. And I was listening to one on the way here, and it popped up 3 weeks ago, I think, on Goalcast is the channel. Yeah. And it was, it's basically the story that you just shared, a little bit more depth. Yeah. And for me, it was incredibly inspirational. And one of the things that I have talked about on this show, and I try to encourage my young athletes, is you got to be a hunter of inspiration and information, right? Being very intentional about what you're consuming. And if you're consuming both information that's going to help you go in the right direction in whatever your craft may be, or inspiration. So I'm curious, and I think there'll be bits and pieces of the story that you just shared that come up through the rest of the conversation, but what are you doing intentionally for yourself or along your journey to be inspired? Are there things you're doing daily to kind of keep yourself elevated and motivated towards your goals?
Yeah. I mean, first there's something to having the motivation to stay aligned with who you are because you're proud of who you are. That, to be honest, is the majority of my motivation. I don't have to get up and watch videos and watch movies. And it's not because I'm special. It's not that I'm not saying like I'm different than you. There have been times when I needed to go watch those and get those. They give you a good spark. But there is nothing like the pride that you get from accomplishing something and then feeling like a great human being. And then from there, my pure motivation is to end the night knowing that I'm in line with that guy. That's it. Now, how I set myself up to be that is unique, because then on a daily basis, there's a statement I say is fall in love with the day, not the destination. A lot of us want to be champions or, first place or winners or success. And we wait to celebrate until we've got to the point of having that. We don't celebrate the day. And so every day we're always presently aware of how far we are not along the path. Whereas for me, I'm like, man, I want to do something that takes me somewhere, but I want to love it every day and I want to feel good every day. So I set myself up for success by not overloading my plate each day and say, I got to get these 4 things done today. And then I get 2 done and I'm like, oh, I hate myself. You suck. The reality was I probably should have done 1 in the first place, but I have a self-imposed energy and direction and I self-sabotage. And then it's just difficult. So the way that I stay motivated is I go, who is this guy that has accomplished some things that I love? How can I stay aligned with him by falling in love with a certain thing or doing things each day? And then I do them. A lot of it's morning routine, exercise, being present with my wife or my kids. I do a certain amount of work that allows me to be focused on it without going overboard and overwhelming and draining my soul, so I don't have something left for my family. And then I can go back home and I can lay my head down and go, yeah, you did a great job today. And I'm happy for you, man. I'm motivated to get up the next day and stay in line and stay in line and stay in line. It takes time to get to become the person where you feel like you're great and now you're staying in line with that person. But to be honest, you just need motivation from the day before. Like, I did a good job yesterday. Let me get back on it. And if you fall off today, say today you got up and you just didn't do it, you watched too many video games or anime. Okay, cool. Well, be motivated that you can get back to the guy you were day before that, or 2 days ago, or 4 days ago. It ain't got to be immediate. We have hiccups, man. It's part of how roller coasters go up and down. But at the end of the day, they're still fun if you're able to get back up when you're down.
Yeah, I think, touching on alignment, and when you are in pursuit of a purpose and a greater vision for yourself, and each day you're able to kind of, just stay in that path, is extremely motivational. And I know I've talked about on one of my episodes before that, I still love getting inspiration from all the books and YouTube videos. And like, I love trying to just get my energy level through the roof. But the point you just made, I've experienced a different level as well when I realized my future self and what I want to be. And that was so motivating and inspiring, and what was possible. So I completely agree there. I want to think about what you're talking about with alignment a little bit further, because I think and again, parents listen to this, coaches listen to this, but again, I really wanted this to be for my younger athletes. So I want to come back to them and the younger people. Alignment, for a teenager. I don't think it's a conversation that a lot of them are having often or in their schools. Can we dive into that? And for me, I think about, really simple, like our thoughts, our words, our actions, and trying to move in one fluid direction, right, towards the best version of ourselves, we could call it. But could you talk about alignment a little bit, and maybe when, or what it looks like for you now, or when that you've gotten into it at certain times?
Yeah, I think alignment is this thing where it creates pride and peace. So alignment is this. Alignment says that in my head, I have a specific picture of who I am. And then I will take that picture and compare it to my day's actions. And did they align? So if I say I'm the kind of person that is nice to people at school, I work as hard as I can in the weight room, and I take care of my grades. That's who I am as a person, right? Well, if I get up today and I was mean to somebody, or, I know I cut a rep in the workout, or, I didn't get my homework done. I failed a test, whatever it is. Well, then what happens is you're now aware that you are living out of alignment. You lose pride and you lose peace. And so when I'm looking at individuals that are youth that are trying to grow, the most important thing is trying to develop pride and peace, because pride makes you feel good about yourself, not at the cost of somebody else feeling bad. It just means you feel good about yourself. And when you're in peace, man, life feels smoother. It feels better. And if you are doing things taken away from that simply because you're not doing actions that align with who you want to be, well, now you're out of alignment. You lose pride, you lose peace. And so hope that answers your question, man. It's more of a matter of like, how can I stay aligned with the person I want to be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think pride and peace are great directions to go in. And I think, for me, I know I've experienced nothing's better than inner peace. And a definition that I've had for success for myself is it's a feeling that I get at the end of the day, knowing that I lived in alignment with my core values. And that's just one of the ways that I've thought about it in the past. So I completely agree there. You talked about, being a regular guy, and there's something that you said on one of your podcasts. I'm a regular guy with an irregular desire to do great things for and in this world. And I think this is where the alignment comes in, but you weren't always a regular, right? Like you had moments in your journey where you said you didn't like the way you looked in the mirror, right? And then the shift happens. Can you kind of dive into maybe what those early moments look like, starting to make shift? Because I think that's probably where most people are. And one of the mindset coaches that I like listening to, Brian Kane, says it's the start that stops most people. And you got to start to, create that shift. So can you talk about, kind of those moments leading up from regular to an irregular desire and moving in that direction?
Yeah. Well, I think that the regular it's the fact that no norm exists. Statistically, you might have a norm, statistically, they'll say like, you're abnormal. In my head, I go, man, I don't want to be normal, because 50+% of people hate their careers and everything. So if normal is that, I don't want that. Right. But regular is a word I chose specifically because although I've experienced a lot of different things that most people never will experience, emotionally, I've definitely had, people can relate, right? That's the thing. There's a regular human relation. I try to say regular because I don't there are some people out of touch with reality. When you get to a certain level of, let's say, income or time, like I don't believe certain people are living the same or even remotely close to the same experience as most people on this planet, right? Bezos literally left the planet just a couple of days ago. You know, like he's not living. He's got billions of dollars. If he doesn't want to, he never has to talk to certain people ever again, right? Or ever experience stuff. He ain't got to go to the grocery store. You're not going to see him walking into CVS. There's not a regular life, right? And for me, like I am that guy, dude. I just got to help my wife install thermostats. I was fixing door frames. What else did I do? I think I had to go back and fix a shower nozzle at whatever. I'm the handyman at her business, and I like doing it. We can hide. There's a handyman that lives across the street from that property, but I still go do it, you know? Like, and so like I live the life. I've lived the highs, I've lived lows. But the irregular desire is different, right? The regular desire is like, you know what? I just want to do a good job, hang out, live my life. And most people live that. And that's completely fine. I'm just internally called at a different level. And it's because of those things. It's because I've navigated a lot of these things that most people would experience and have, and they get stuck there for a lifetime, man. People that have experienced, just say foster care alone. A lot of people experience foster care. And if you go to any prison in America, 75% of the inmates are former foster kids. Half the homeless population are from foster care. Less than 1% of us graduate from college. So regular and normal in that realm is not doing what I'm doing. And so like, that's just that one. I've had, you know, my marriage fell apart and I was able to fix that and get back together, right? I had a kid in college. Most people that have kids young, they don't succeed, don't even graduate college. Like, I've always had these things happen, but there's always been at this one point a desire to push out. And then I got to a point I realized, you know what, I've had these things happen. I navigated past them. What if there's some value to the craziness of all of this? What if I can make use of the things I've gone through that no one wants to talk about? Because no one really likes to talk about the things that they didn't do well. They want to cover them up. Look at my nice car. Look at my big muscles. Look at my grill, you know, like whatever it is. Look at all this cool stuff I got. And no one wants to talk about, oh yeah, but you know, your kids don't see you because you're at the gym all the time, or your wife and you have a bad relationship and like you're in debt because of that truck you have, you know, all these things that go on. So what ends up happening is like, I try to talk about the things that we're all commonly experiencing. A couple of days ago, I posted my credit score. I finally was able to get into the eights, like 804 or something. And people go, it's not a personal thing. Why would you do that? And I said, you know what? Because we live in this world where everybody is tied to credit. Everybody, but no one talks about it.
Yeah.
So like, that's the thing is I have a regular desire to impact things and do things in this world. And so I'm going to talk about them and I'm going to share about them. That's the irregular portion. I'm not talking about showing up and being a Superman with a cape and like I have all the answers, because I don't have all the answers. You want to ask me about investing in cryptocurrency, bro? We're going to have a long time figuring it out together, right? But the reality is there's a desire. There's a desire to do irregular things beyond the norm, past what would shut people down. And that comes from me just simply experiencing the thought that like there is something that can be made use of with all the hardship. So I'm going to do something with it. Yeah.
So a desire, a belief, kind of the prerequisite to really any change or any, you know, shift in our lives. Something I try to just think about often myself. I know, but I've experienced it, looking back at my life and being like, wow, I lived exactly to where my belief system led me to.
Oh yeah,
you know,
we do.
It's like, you look back and you're like, man, I lived exactly the way I thought I would. And then you start expanding that and you start expanding that internal desire and those mechanisms. It's in powerful stuff. So one of the things I want to dive into is like mentorship. Okay. And then you also talked about it recently in an episode and you talked about it as proximity pays.
Yeah, it
right?
does.
The people that you're around. Okay. So for me, the mentor, it's the greatest accelerant of growth, right? Having somebody who's been there before, who cares about you authentically. And it's also the most fulfilling for me. So for me right now, I have it in two ways. I am a mentor to the kids that I work with. And that's part of my business model and structure with my academy, that I'm a bigger part of their lives than I would have been if I was just another coach. Extremely fulfilling. I know that I'm trying to serve them at a high level, but I also have a mentor who's my now business partner. And his experience, there's no way I could have his experience ever. I couldn't go back to school and do all he's done, the decisions he's had to made, his struggles and triumphs. And to be around him gives me a completely different level of clarity, confidence, security, and decisions that we have to make. It's amazing. I love it. Right? And you talked about in the proximity pays, there's a sensory feel that you get being around people that are levels above you, right? And it starts to kind of pull you in that direction. So can you talk about mentorship, proximity pays, and maybe any specific people throughout your journey or now that are kind of providing that for you?
Yeah, man. I got 8 minutes or less. I got like 6 minutes in that podcast, maybe 7 to talk about stuff. And so there's a lot. I mean, to be honest, it's like a thing that where you end up getting this mental exposure that you're not used to. So there's times that, say, for example, when it's hot outside and then you walk into a room that has an air conditioner on, like you feel the cold, you just feel it. You don't say like, it's not announced that it's cold. Your body notices, oh, it's a lot chillier in here. That's kind of how it is when it comes to mentorship. It's that quite literal. You're like in a vastly different environmental experience. There's that statement is you don't know what you don't know. If you don't know, you don't know it. So whenever you get around like people that are higher level, the way they talk, the way they speak, what they do, usually, and it should, when you're in the right rooms, it feels like a fish out of water. Your immediate thought is like, I don't know anything about this. I feel uncomfortable. I'm going to leave because I don't want them to know I don't know anything. Whereas for me, I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. Imagine when I figure out what the hell they're talking about. Like there's a different mentality. Now, those who want to succeed, their pride isn't wrapped up in whether or not they know these things. It should be wrapped up in my effort to learn them. Yeah. And that's how you grow. And it actually expands you. It's a big expansion, to be quite honest. So when you say proximity pays, let's talk about the financial aspect. People want to have a great job later on. Let's be honest. It's a business you have. You want to be in a great career. There are going to be certain people at the level that you want to be, no matter what it is. And if you walk in that room and naively assume that the reason they're there is because of a book that they read, then you are going to be stuck where you're at forever. The reason they're there is because of the things that you don't even understand are going on in their head and how they see it. So quite literally what you might see as a problem, they go, oh, what a great opportunity. Yeah. How do you? Well, because you didn't know what they know. You don't even know what they know exists just yet. So the mentorship puts you in a position to start knowing things you didn't know you didn't know. And that becomes a special spot. Because then you're exposed. Like I have groups, let's see, next month I'll be in Napa. And if anybody's aware of this world that I operate in, there are very high level minds. So you got like Brennan Burchards and the Dean Graciosis, Russell Brunsons, the Jeff Walkers, Lewis House, Prince E.A., Trent Shelton, Marie Forleo, Gabby Bernstein, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, like all these, the list goes on and on. I'm not even joking. We all meet once a year and we sit at a table for about 8 hours and we just dump the brains. And that is one of those moments where I kid you not, I walk out of there and I'm like, I am the stupidest human on this planet. I'm dead serious, dude, because there's so much information spilled out in ways that I wouldn't even know because they've been to certain heights I want to go. So is it faster for me to go and try to figure it out myself and walk the exact same path they did? Or for me to sit down and distill it and go, bro, I'm getting put on game for all these things that I didn't even, now I know they're existent, right? And what I typically do, because they've been, a lot of them been in there like double the years I have, quite literally. Like I'm in like 7 years in this industry. Some of them have been in like 18, 20 years, easy, right? So I'm stepping in going, well, I'm going to take all this, the notes. I'm writing down things that I don't know what they are. And believe me, Google's going to get worked out later on. Me and Google are going to have to do a little workout. I'm going to Google stuff, write it, read it. And I find articles, but now I get to fast pace because I'm being aware of it. And the problem I find with a lot of individuals is they go into the backstage of life after sports, which is weird, after sports and go, you know what? I don't need a mentor. I don't need a coach. Only losers have coaches. Oh, is that right? Well, interesting, because I played professional football in the NFL and I had a coach. I was one of the best in the world at what I do, but I had a coach. So what makes you think you don't, right? And so for me, I've never had an issue with saying, no, I got a coach. You guys, I still have coaches to this day that are consistently in my ear for levels that I want to go to. And when I get to a level where me and the coach are even, or I've surpassed, which has happened, I just work a different level. It's not a negative thing. It's just that they were the right person in that season to learn from. And then I go to the next person. And then when at some point I'll be like, you know what? I'm good here. I want to get amazing at this level. And I'll do that. I'll get amazing. And life will still provide moments to learn. But I'm not going to step into the next branch, the next tier. I don't want to go to the next movie or TV show, right? Whatever it may be. I'll just stay where I'm at. And that ends up being the thing where, like, I think a lot of people are afraid to fast track that by letting somebody be in front of them as a coach.
Yeah. The points that you just made about the mental exposure and going into a room when you step out of the heat and you go into the AC, and the thermostat thermometer metaphor, right? I mean, that's it, right? Like when you are around somebody with that energy, they're a thermostat. They set the temperature, they set the tone, and you usually tend to rise up. So I completely agree there. And that's an interesting way to think about it. And then also, yeah, you're getting exposed to a different level of perspective, and perspective and awareness is like the name of the game as far as growth and what's possible. So I absolutely love that. To the point about having a coach, I 4 weeks ago decided to get a coach for myself, somebody I built a relationship with, Stu Singer. He's a sports psychologist, works with NBA teams, college teams, and definitely a leap out of my comfort zone to do it. But he goes, I'm doing this with top NBA coaches and college coaches. Like, I was like, well, might as well just get started, because I have big aspirations for myself. And it's been, it's amazingly impactful to get coached up again. I've always been seeking that stuff, but yeah, having somebody who is guiding you a little bit more, and being vulnerable enough to share with them, what you're going through is an incredible avenue for growth. So in regards to that, so with you right now, I know you're a speaker and you have clients. I'm sure you're working with them as their coach. Can you talk a little bit about maybe your coaching philosophy or your coaching style, and what's it look like for you when you step into somebody's life and help them elevate?
The first thing is I should not coach based on like my thoughts or feelings. I coach in a process. And one step back before that, my job as a coach is not to see what you see, it's to see the field. So I need to see, I'm part of what I'm seeing is you, right? But when I played sports, you played lacrosse, right? A coach is out there, like I might be right in front of the net. They call it a goal or a net. I don't know what to call it. Call it a goal, I'm assuming.
You can call it either.
I'm right in front of it, right? But I'm not aware of what the team's doing behind me and around me. But a coach, when I come to the sideline, I say, hey man, listen here. Hey, Michael, bro, like when you're out there, you got this going on, but then you got this guy back here, this guy back here. Like next time, go here, go to the right. Like, oh, I can do a different thing to do what I want to score the goal. So coaches are not always going to be the guys or girls that are your same caliber in that area. Because when I played football, my coach on the sideline, bro, he got busted knees, his back's bad. He ain't running. He ain't doing what I can do physically, but he sees what I don't see. It's the first part of it. Secondly, when it comes to the process, majority of high-level athletes, they all have plays, playbooks, structure. And coaches don't go out there and just say, run faster, move around. You got it. They say, no, hey, here's the play. You're not following the playbook, man. That's why you're not scoring this, or you're not following the workout plans, why you're not getting stronger or faster. So a good coach should have a system. We have what's called the shift method. It's a method specifically designed for someone to shift their identity, which if you do it properly, you start to take control of the things today that make a difference tomorrow. And you get back control. You get a sense of what I call like ridiculous power. And a lot of it boils back to like, most of us have no control, man. So that's the problem. We're running around in life. I have no control of my day. I call myself freedom, but I'm just out of control. I'm doing things that keep me surviving or right ahead of the pack, but there's not a control of when I can gear up and gear down. So as a coach, what I do is I got this system. It's called the shift method. We're going to come in. We're going to work through this method. In working through the method, we're going to get to the back end. Now, as a coach, what I'm doing is motivating along the process. Hey, you went out there. You didn't do the game plan, man. That's why it didn't work. Let's go back to the game plan. Hey, what do you need to learn for this? Okay, how do we make adjustments? What are the audibles for you? Oh, you got some stuff coming. We got a speech coming up. Cool, let's make some adjustments, right? But all of it is dialed into following a plan, or what we'd call a playbook. That's what separates me, I think, from a lot of coaches, because most coaches, they got this thing where it's like, I got this, we got 6 work sessions we cover, and we do this thing, or I'm going to be your coach, and we hop on and we just talk. It's like, cool, we're going to talk. I don't mind talking to you, but where are we going? And if you don't have a place of where you're going, it's going to be something where both you and your client don't get where you want to get.
Yeah. In regards to our identities and identity shift, I've been exposed to those ideologies. And for me, when I realized that I could change personality traits and attributes of myself, that was like a big awakening, and I think really it was probably around high school when I was like, wait, I don't have to act grumpy on Mondays because everybody else is grumpy in school on Mondays. I can actually go a different way and start behaving differently. And like, that's the age group that I'm spending a lot of time with, middle school and high schoolers. They're, you can shift so quickly. Right. And especially at that age, you really, really can make it happen, which is exciting. But can you talk about the framework of shifting your identity? right? So you don't have to go deep into your method, but like just like beginner 101 identity shift, what that would look like for somebody.
Yeah. First thing, 101 identity is giving yourself permission to improve. And so it's 3 stages. It's called see, shift, sustain. In order to actually see, when I say see, I mean see the things about yourself that you don't want to see, that aren't the funnest parts. Maybe you have a bad temper, you don't communicate well, you're kind of mean, maybe you're just a bad friend, whatever it may be. There are parts of you that exist that maybe you don't want to see, but you need to see. And this usually comes from essentially unpacking and dropping the ego for a minute and letting people tell you things that you need to hear, not that you want to hear. And there's a statement I love. It's, you can't see the label when you're inside the jar. So a lot of us are walking around in this jar and we're doing our thing, but we can't even see ourselves. We don't really know who we are. And so first thing is see, find a way to go through the process of seeing that. There's different ways to do that. We have within our methods. Second thing is now the shift. Most people jump here first. They go, I want to shift. I want to do some things. So what do? I'm going to go work out more. I'm going to eat better food. I'm going to right? All these things. And what happens is if you do the wrong things, you end up becoming somebody you don't want to become. Like you end up being your mom or your dad or your coach that you hate because you did what they told you to do. Not that you don't follow them, but just be aware of what it is. But here's the reality is, if you do it right and you saw the things that you have to work on, well, when you shift, you have what's called a personalized shift plan. And this becomes your own specific things that you've got to work on to shift. And a lot of individuals, man, unfortunately, they go through life and they borrow other people's things, habits, actions, and then they get to the back end of doing them and go, man, I'm dead tired. I got nothing to show for it. I am no better. Well, yeah, because you were putting you were plugging spots of a bucket where there weren't any holes. Those are somebody else's holes. You were just borrowing habits from somebody, borrowed their morning routine, borrowed their workout plan, but it's vastly different, right? So the C phase allows you to know what holes you have in the bucket, where the actual holes you are, and then you can work on those. The last part is sustain. You can go in there and plug a bucket hole once or twice for a day or for a week, whatever. You can do some things, but a true shift happens with time. It happens with you doing it so long that at some point you pop up and go, holy crap, I'm a different person. How did I become this person, right? It's the investment over time that actually gives you the return you want. So if I want a return of a different identity, shift in my identity, that's a great outcome. Think about how good it's a lot that comes with that. I feel different. I'm stronger. I'm smarter. I'm more confident. Like I got all those things. That doesn't happen from a single day investment. It happens because you've done it over time. And when you do make the investment over time of effort and energy to build that pride, you will have the return of a sense of self that is well beyond where it's at right now in a positive way. So when we talk about an identity shift, it starts with first seeing, then shifting for yourself the way you need to, and sustaining that enough to where at some point you wake up and go, wow, I'm a different human. It's metaphorically, imagine like when you go to a coffee shop and you sit down, like you get your headphones and like the first couple minutes you're paying attention to what's around you. Then all of a sudden you wake up and it's like 2 hours later. You're like, bro, where'd the time go? Oh my, I was in a zone, right? That's kind of what it feels like with an identity shift. You sit down, you're working for the first couple of days, first couple of weeks, and then you just get into a groove, man. And you wake up like 3 months later, like, whoa, wow, I'm a different person. Like I lost 50 pounds. I made some more money. I got a better relationship. Looks good. Like, wow, it feels good right now. But that doesn't happen after day one.
Yeah. It sounds like, just the notes that I took in sync with those steps, kind of self-awareness, just intentional action, and understanding delayed gratification, which is just incredibly difficult to grasp. And especially, and I'm sure you're aware, right, with the phones and the access that we have to that quick hit of dopamine is what's really what we get when we look at social media, and we can be so distracted, becoming a little bit more difficult for us as humans to understand delayed gratification. But that's the key. And that's where it's worth it too. And that's what feels the best. So one of the things, not off topic, but I had this idea, and I think you'd like it for like a shift starter episode. Okay. So I call it batting 1,000. So I don't know. I mean, I definitely learned kindness from my mom, and she would just be smiling at everybody. She'd walk by, and like, she just modeled that behavior. Speaking of mentorship, right? Modeled behavior. And I get a sense of fulfillment and wholeness when I connect with people on the street, strangers, wherever I am. So one of my little games that I play, and I just want your thoughts on this, I think you'd like it, is I try to bat 1,000, right? So I got everybody I walk by, everybody I come in contact with throughout the day, I got to at least smile. I got to say hello, have a good conversation. And let's say, if I can get, and that's tough to get everybody, but if I get everybody, if I get most people, I stay in an elevated state, right? And there's something about human connection that just gives me energy. And then every once in a while, one of those conversations takes form, carries on, and then it becomes super fulfilling. But I play that little game with myself just as a way to practice kindness. I want that to be a part of my identity, and I get a lot out of it. I feel really good. So I just want to get your thoughts on like intentional kindness and the human connection. Because I think, if you're not intentional about it, like I will walk with my head in my phone. I'll do it, So just what do you think your thoughts on that are?
Yeah, I think you always, you get what you give. It's essentially, the world has genuinely shown me that it's a mirror to me. So what I give out to the world, I'll get. If I go outside and I hate you, I'm mean to people, I guess they're going to be right in return mean to me. And there's no guarantee, right? You might have people that are nice to you, even if you're mean. And you may have people that are mean to you, even if you're nice. But I think what it is the emotion of like joy or whatever it is, it always happens on the backside of action. And essentially what you're saying is your identity is being built, which is a good thing. I believe it's built based upon how I do things on a daily basis. Like you fall in love with the day and the actions, not the destination.
Yep.
So and this is how I operate. What I've noticed in my life is like, I am trying to somewhat the exact same thing. I want to show up in the world in a way that I want the world to show up for me. And I realize that if I can fall in love with doing those things, and man, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be joyful and happy around that, not just me getting to the point of whatever the outcome may be. And so like, I do believe that if you're kind, you do those things, you get that kind of outcome. Also, there's something to be said about the feelings we get from being part of the interaction. So even if you're the one giving out the kindness, you still feel the emotion involved with doing kind things. It's like, but you may be experiencing it vastly different than the person you said hey to, and I hope you're having a great day. I still feel good though. Yeah. Like my kids, like they didn't grow up in foster care, right? And I have no idea what it's like. But as a father, I get to experience the relationship differently than they did. Like I get to be part of a parental, kid relationship. I'm just as the parent. So I feel a certain way for just the interactions, the good mornings, how you doing, the dinners, the games, the high fives, right? And here's a unique part of it is while I am very close to them emotionally at this time, I am 100% in the opposite in terms of understanding the relation of how it feels as them. So what I mean is like, I'm very close to the emotion of who they are as humans, but I'm distant from their experience of childhood. I do not know what it's like to have a present father who is there, who tells me he loves me, who has a mom. I don't know that feeling, but I do know that for me, I have a great feeling being a parent in that relationship dynamic. So yes, when you do go out and do certain things, even if you're not the receiver, being part of that interaction still gives you a piece of that emotion. Yeah.
It's kind of similar. And you talking about the parenting side of it. Again, another one that I was listening to, your shift starters talking about planting seeds. Yeah. Right. And I remember the quote I read a long time ago, and I didn't really understand it until probably a few years ago. And I think the quote was, wise men plant seeds of which the trees they will not sit under the shade of. Right. Meaning they're going to, move forward for their community, for their human race. And they're going to be intentional about their things that they do in serving others. And they might not be fully physically present and alive to see the benefit of it, or just be around those people as they grow. But can you talk about planting seeds as a mindset? And I think it really goes along with service. And I know, quoting you on another one, you said, your pursuit is to serve others at the highest level possible. Right. Yeah. And if you kind of keep that at the forefront, good things are going to happen. So can you talk about planting seeds and serving others as really a model for, like life and business?
Yeah. I mean, it's you can bring it back down to that quote of, if you want to get what you want in life, help as many other people get what they want. That's kind of, it's in line with that bucket. And I'm not deterring or taking away from that quote. It's a very good statement, and it's a truth. The thing for me, it's like the seed planting is this thing where I want the world to be a certain way when I go out into it and experience it. And, if you would say, be the change you want to see in the world, the best way for me to do it is not to plant the seed and try and water it. Sometimes like I spend my days going out and planting seeds and then hoping that with that seed, you'll go find a place to get it watered. I, most of the time, am not the person to water the seed. So I may put a seed in somebody's heart today that says, man, I like the idea of making identity shift into that player that's going to be a great husband someday, a great dad someday, a great mom, a great wife someday, whatever it may be, a great teacher, coach, whatever it is. I may, plant the seed, but they may not call me and work with me and talk to me to actually water it. It might be a different person. It might be you. It might be a community, right?
Yep.
But for me, if I can plant the seed, I do something cool, because we go right back to that same feeling of like, I get to be an individual who in this world, like I'm just doing the thing, and I get to experience it from the side of planting a seed. And it's fun for me and I enjoy it, and I get filled up by pouring out. So in the world of like what I do, like, yeah, I don't want to, inspiration is a piece of it because I want to inspire people, but I think inspiration and motivation die quickly. And that stuff's the stuff where it's like, you got this, you can do it. Look what I did. Look what she did. You can do it. Good. I'm inspired. I'm motivated. I don't know what to do. So for me, it's like I plant the seed of like, look, I did it, you can do it. But like, look, here's step one. Go take a look at who you are in the mirror. Step two, go do this, right? That's a seed. Yeah. Say, okay, Anthony planted a seed of understanding what it means to see and then shift and then sustain it over time. What if I go get it watered and find out, like, because his thing, my process isn't the only way to see who you are. It's a streamlined way that works for me and other people, but there are other ways to do it. They might be slower, could be faster. But there's other ways to find out who you are, to get someone to take a look at you and really extract, like, this is my persona. This is my humanity, right? Shifting. It's just the work you do and how you do it and the plan you create. Is mine the only way? No, right? That would be me watering it. But for a lot of people, I've already planted the seed of like, oh, I guess the thing is, if I really want to have more, I got to become more. Let me go figure out how to become more. And that may be how it operates.
When I was prepping for this and writing things down, as I said, I asked that question, being a hunter for inspiration and information. And I had a feeling, the thought crossed my mind that you would say, like they just came through and said, discipline triumphs inspiration, right? Or discipline dominates inspiration. And I think there's something to be said about, you're going back to the process and having a method in regards to that. So I just wanted to bring that point up because I want to acknowledge the inspiration of like, you can do it, hoorah, you got it, versus a deeper burning passion that you can connect to. Right. And then what you're talking about, planting seeds, giving people a spark, right? Yeah. Like for me, my intrinsic motivator, right? I know my purpose is to help others. I want to have a massive positive impact in the world. That fires me up. Listening to the YouTube video of your story and the motivation that I got from it reconnected me to like, let's go. I got more energy today. Keep going. So it's interesting how inspiration can go, because for someone hears that the first time, they could be like, whoa, like I really could make some shift here. This could be an incredible, like what's possible for me. And then for somebody else, I'm like, I may just call it a day and not get back to my process. And then I hear a story and it's like, dude, no way, you haven't even got started yet. So it's a fascinating thing in regards to, serving others. One of the lines I heard is, if you're feeling helpless, get helpful. And I think about this story of a guy I met through the suicide prevention program that I've worked with, Sources of Strength. And he was kind of a lost teenager, couldn't really find himself, didn't want to go to college, didn't really have much going for him. And one of his neighbors invited him to a foreign country to go on a mission trip.
Yeah.
And he really was like, I have nothing else to do. Like, yeah, let's get out of the country. And on this mission trip, he realized, in his environment and where he was helpless. Like there was nothing he had going for him. There's nobody reaching out at the time, nothing to put his effort behind. But in this environment, he was able to serve others at a high capacity. They built up a community. He was there for multiple months. And through that process, he found a different level of self-worth and what he can do to be a contributing member at a high level. And he ended up following that passion, and he stayed there for a long period of time. And then he went and got his PhD, his master's, graduate degree, master's, PhD, and all in like social work, and do these incredible things. And now he's a national trainer for this great organization. And he said, he's like, invite others into generosity, invite others into serving others, So just wanted to kind of share that. I think it's a powerful thing in regards to, man, like everybody that I listen to and subscribe to, like yourself, you're talking frequently about serving others, giving value to others. Yeah. And I think, again, that's another paradigm shift for a young person growing up, where as you're a baby, you know, it's all me, me, me. And then as you get older, it's like, wow, it's really about others. But what are your thoughts there in regards to, you know, being of service to others and what that does for a person?
Yeah, it was a statement. It's the rent we should have to pay to live on this earth should be the service to others. And it doesn't mean that you don't get anything out of it, because I think a lot of us are seeking a purpose and seeking. Here's what I've found: we're trying to like seek this thing as why we're supposed to be here, and we never chase passions, and we never get in motion. There's two things that have to do with chasing passions and being in motion. The first thing is there's magic in motion. There is no magic. Like, think of a magic trick with a magician standing still. Nothing special about it. It's the reveal. It's the movement. It's literally in a magic show. It's the actions and sleight of hand. For us humans, we are happiest in motion. Like me and you right now, we're in the motion of the podcast. There's a joy, there's an expression, there's me having fun talking, there's an enjoyment, there's a thing we're doing, right? Now, thinking about the podcast doesn't compare to doing it, right? Thinking about playing the game doesn't compare to playing it. So there's a magic in motion. For a lot of people, they aren't in motion. They aren't in any way creating that motion, so they're missing out on the magic, right? And then when it comes to the motion, I believe it needs to be chasing passions. So when we're in a space of doing something just to do something and we don't really chase something we love to do, it kills the magic of the motion. But if I'm doing something that gets me in motion, it sparks a little bit of a joy. I want to find something that makes me feel like there's some kind of passion to it. Maybe, and if it's serving in a way, the beautiful thing is you'll go down this pathway. And I find that down the pathways of chasing passions, we stumble into potholes of purpose. You're walking down this thing, just doing it because it feels good. You feel good because you're in motion, and you step into something and go, oh my, wow, I didn't know this was here. Look at how cool this, you dig down into the pothole and you find a chunk of gold. Like, this is an amazing thing. So I think service floats into that because now I'm in motion. I'm doing something that even though I may not be heavily passionate about it, I've never found someone who has done something. And here's the cool thing. I think passion comes from an enjoyment of the action. Like, there's an enjoyment around it. When you serve people, the enjoyment doesn't come from the fact that I did the thing. What it comes from is being part of that relationship that helps you experience that feeling, like we just talked about. So I do something, and a little kid looks up at you and goes, thank you so much. Or a person comes and gives you a hug with a tear. You are part of that experiential relationship, even if you are not in their position. So you like the actions. Therefore, you just put magic in your motion. You find some passion, and you start leaning into a purpose.
I say magic in the motion. I like that one. I may write that one down. I'll definitely write that one down. Speaking of that, I know we got, probably a little bit less than 10 minutes, some final thoughts. Speaking about magic in motion, what is your framework, maybe your spiritual framework, but, that just kind of sparked that in me. Like, I try to touch magic. And for me, this is an energy game. Life, it's a spiritual game. But can you talk about that? Do you have a specific, spiritual framework that you can share and talk about, and how do you try to create magic in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a man of faith. I'm a Christian man. I don't know if there is a spiritual framework for me. What I do realize is, if you want to talk about framework, it's just like understanding that majority of religions are created for peace. Some would argue it's for control, but even then you can control the peaceful easier, So that's a different venture of a conversation. But I think
I like it though.
Yeah, majority of them, it's for peace. So I've had people go, what if God isn't real? What if it always, you just waste your time? Well, let's say I do. At least I lived a life where I did, in my opinion, more positive than negative. I wasn't, walking around being mean to people. I wasn't killing people for my religion. I just did my thing. So I guess the base of my framework is like, I do things that give me that alignment. I do things that allow me to align with actions that seem to be more positive than negative when it comes to how I show up in this world. And those become the things that are the backbone that are pulled from my spiritual base of what I deem to be more right than wrong, right? And I say that very loosely because there's some people that'll say, well, maybe you shouldn't curse or eat pork. And like, yeah, I get that. Every religion has different bases. But the majority of it's like, be at peace, find a core, treat people right? Those are the things. And so I don't have a spiritual framework except for one, have a base for myself. So there's somebody and something higher than me. Because when there's something higher than you make decisions beyond where you feel today.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so some people, if there's no base, I may feel like taking your car and I'm gonna lean into that, you know? But if I like, you know what? That's not right. I would lead to having a different feeling. I'm not going to go steal your car on the street. And that's where you start looking at religion does create peace, because most people will align themselves, like we talked about in the very beginning, with that kind of a backbone, that kind of a framework for how they live their life. And then it leads to other things that you can do.
That's beautiful. You know, one of the thoughts that came to me, and I think this is I think it's a great question, because I know it's going to serve, 10 of the kids I'm working with that get, stage fright or performance anxiety. And can you think of a time, maybe it was before taking the field before an NFL game, or maybe get in front of a big crowd, where you did not necessarily feel good or confident, and you were able to, conjure that, right? You fake it until you felt it, or you had a game plan, but that's the biggest thing that I see with young people is like, they're so worked up, my athletes, right? They're so scared about going out and doing it. And I was like, no one feels great the first time they go do it. You gotta get reps. I think you can prepare a ton to feel better, but I'm just curious, do you have any specific stories, whether it was as an athlete or as a speaker, maybe overcoming stage fright or the nerves?
I don't know if you overcome it, man. I think you go through a process, a genuine process that diminishes it and turns it into joy. So there's a lot that goes into this. There's something to do with, confidence, competence cycle. The more you know, the less you feel like incompetent, the more confidence you gain.
Yep.
There's a part of it there. There is the fact of repetition, which leads into what I'm going to tell you in a second. But I think, man, at the end of the day, it's a natural feeling to feel like there's something off. The problem with that is that you're thinking too much about you and less about just you showing up as what you already are. Because you wouldn't be in the position you are if you weren't supposed to be there. That's what I believe. Like I'm not given opportunities on accident. Some part of you worked to a position where somebody believed you belong there, period. Even if you put yourself out to be on a team, a coach isn't going to put you out there if you didn't show up on time, didn't know what you're supposed to do. So therefore, the only person that's really thinking you suck at was you right now. It's a big piece of it. And so if you can pull yourself away from that mentality and stop going down like we'll call it the negative hill of mental downslide with no e-brake, right? Pull the brake and turn the car around. Like, just stop thinking that direction. It sounds odd, but visualize the positive instead of visualizing the negative. But here's the bigger piece of it all. You mentioned, like, you don't start on cloud nine. You don't start as a professional. And it's a journey you have to go through to get to the point of being like the people you look up to that seem to go in the field and look invincible. The reason they do is because there's something that they did that allowed them to go through and get to this point of having this creepy sense of confidence and pride. They started out, and like everyone, they had a 10 out of 10 of pain. They tried the thing. They experienced how bad it felt, how poorly they did, and it just emotionally felt bad. And some people, majority, go, ooh, I don't want to feel that way again. So what am I going to do? I'm going to find any way in hell to avoid this. Bro, I got these kids I'm coaching my son's football team right now. They're all like, they go out there as a 10 out of 10 of pain, running to the fence and back because they're messing up. And they'll, oh, my head hurts, my back, my ankle, my knee, my backyard, like all these excuses. And I'm looking at them going, man, you don't even realize, like, that's just a piece of pain. Because here's what happens. You'll feel the pain. Most will find an excuse to walk away. The successful people, they'll go, all right, I learned something from this. I'm going to do it again right now. People go, what do you mean? Right now? You suck at that. Why would you try it again? Well, because I did suck, but I learned something. I'm going to try that. I'm going to try to use this thing I just learned for the next time I apply it and see what happens. So you try it again. It's like from a 10, like a 9.83. It's still close to 10, right? It still hurts, right? But you go, I did it. Ooh, it hurts. You better quit that. You suck. Stop doing that. Now I'm going to try it again. What? What are you talking about, Michael? You crazy person? Why would you try it again? I'm going to try. God, just learn something else. Weird, right? Try it again. Now it's a 9. Still a 9. Dude, you suck at that. Why are you still doing it? Oh, I just got to try it again. Why? I learned something. You not obviously ain't learning enough. But again, this process recycles. And it's an 8, 7, 6. This could take you years, 5, 4, but eventually it gets down to 0. And most people go, oh, well, it's painless. You're doing it, it's painless. That makes sense. But painless, there's no joy in painless. There's nothing amazing. There's joy in joy. And 0 is not painless. 0 is actually joy. Because now you're giving effort to something and you don't have the negative feel, and it lights you up to do it. When I first played football, I was trash for 2 years. Horrible. By the time I'm playing in the NFL, bro, strap me up. I can't wait to get out there because I went through the journey of sucking at it to get great. When I started speaking on stages, I got seriously bombed multiple stages, but eventually kept getting back up. And now I'm paid a great deal to go give speeches. And I love every opportunity to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It lights me up. And I just let I let the beast out of the cage. Half the time, I don't even know what I'm going to say when I get started, but I feel ridiculously confident because I've done the work. Mm-hmm. So hey, give me the mic for an hour, bro. Don't even say anything. And I'm going to kill it. But that comes because I got to a joy point. Yeah. So a kid that's going, man, I suck at this. Hey, that is the journey. Yep. That's your 9. That's your 8. That's your 7. That's your 6.5, 6.4. You know, it may be minimal at times, but eventually you will get to that 0 if you just keep fighting for it. And then it'll be something you can't not do.
I love it, man. Trying to get me to run through a wall right now, Anthony. I appreciate it, man.
Dog.
You've provided a ton of great insights in this hour, a ton of value. And I know that anyone and everyone, all the millions of people that listen to this will get a ton of great wisdom out of it. So I really, really appreciate your time. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. I really, really appreciate it, man. It means a lot to me. Definitely the biggest guest I've had on to date, and it'll have a good ripple effect in me and hopefully a lot of others. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Very welcome. That's the plan. It's always the plan.
Yep. I appreciate it, man. Have a great day.
You too. Take care, man.